who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Thank you very much, Pennsylvania. Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be back in this beautiful Commonwealth with thousands of proud, hardworking American patriots. That's what you are. That's what you are. And when I look at this crowd and I look at the crowd outside, and we stopped a couple of places and nobody's ever seen anything like it, you know, let me tell you, they have us up in the polls, as you know, in Pennsylvania and all over the place, actually. But when they say we're 3 points up or 4, there's no way. It's got to be a hell of a lot more than that. It has to be. It has to. You know, polls are fake also, just like these people, the fake news. They just... We prove that. We prove that a lot. Well, I just want to thank you. We're here today because early voting begins in Pennsylvania over the next 2 weeks. And we need each and every one of you to go out. Just don't take anything for granted. We have to win Pennsylvania. Go out and make a plan to vote early, vote absentee, or vote in person on election day. But you got to get out and vote. You got to say to your husband, Harry, get the hell off that couch. We can't take any chances because our nation is at stake. Our nation is going to hell. What they've done to our country at the border with inflation, with that Afghanistan nightmare that was the most embarrassing day probably in the history of our country, the way they did that. Getting out was fine, but you get out with dignity and strength. What they did was so bad. When you look at October 7th in Israel, it would have never happened. And you look at the Russian attack of Ukraine, would have never, ever happened, not even a thought of it. Think of it. Think of how different this world would have been. Think of how different this country would have been, our country, which is just going so bad. It's so bad. Millions and millions of people are pouring into our country, and they come from jails. They come from mental institutions and insane asylums. They're terrorists at a level, that nobody's ever seen before, and they let them come in. And you have the border czar, this person that can't even speak. She can't ask a question. She can't answer a question from... Now she gets out Oprah Winfrey, who I used to know well. She used to love me until I decided to run for politics. Oh, let's go to Mar-a-Lago, Donald. I love the place so much. No, she used to love me, but once I ran for politics, that was the end of that, and that was okay with me. I couldn't care less, because we got to make our country great again. Got to make it great again, greater than ever before. But Oprah would ask just a simple question, and you get this crazy answer, or you don't get any answer. Just, this is not a president. We had 4 years of this. We're not going to have 4 more years. We won't survive it. I also want you to promise to find at least one voter and get them out to the polls. Find these people. There's so many people. If everybody votes, you know, it's interesting. Christians, we got to get the Christians to vote. You know, I don't know what it is. Relatively, they don't vote a lot. They go to church and they love church, and that's great, but we got to get Christians, evangelicals, we have to get them out to vote. We have to get gun owners. You know, gun owners don't vote. They don't vote. We have to get them out. The NRA gave me their total endorsement. They have every time, total, complete endorsement, but they vote at levels that are very low. You know what it is? It's probably rebellion. They're rebelling. But there's nothing to rebel about. You have to get out. If we had Christians voting in full strength, we couldn't lose. If we had the gun owners voting at full strength, we couldn't lose. We have to get gun owners, because your guns are under siege. She wants to take your guns away. Our entire nation is counting on the people of this great commonwealth, and I know you will not let us down. You're not going to let us down. We got to get out and vote, and you can start right away. You know that, right? Now we have this stupid stuff where you can vote 45 days early. I wonder what the hell happens during that 45. Let's move see these votes? We've got about 1 million votes in there. Let's move them. We're fixing the air conditioner in the room, right? No, it's terrible. What happened the last time was disgraceful, including right here. But we're not going to let it happen again. Too big to rig, right? That's one way you do it. Can't let it happen. We got to take our country back from these horrible people, because if we win Pennsylvania, we win the whole thing. It's very simple. 43 days from now. 43 days we've been waiting for. 4 years. 4 years. We had people that were so incompetent. They were the most incompetent leaders in the whole world. And she is worse than Sleepy Joe Biden. She's worse. She's worse. 43 days from now, we're going to win Pennsylvania and take our country back, and we're going to be so happy. And it'll be the most important day and the most important vote in the history of our country, because we're losing our country. I mean, somebody I heard the other day, pretty smart person, and you think about it, and it could be true. They said, if we don't win this election, there may never be another election in this country. It could happen. Look at Venezuela. Venezuela was the most prosperous country, and now you take a look. And can you believe these stupid people are buying oil from Venezuela? From Venezuela, who was our enemy. They foreclosed on his airplane, a crappy old airplane. But they're giving him billions of dollars for oil. It's not oil, it's tar. It's the worst. And you know, for the environmentalists, you know where they cure the tar? Where they take the tar and they make it into beautiful oil? Houston, Texas, and it all goes flying up in the air. You ought to look into that one for all of you wonderful people that talk about the environment like I do, like many of the people in this room do. But they do it. The oil refinery it's the only one that can do it, because it literally is tar. It's not good stuff. We have the best stuff, and we have the most. We have more liquid gold under our feet, and we're buying oil from Venezuela. We don't need it at all. It's crazy. These people are crazy. What a nice-looking man. Who is that? Oh, that's Trump. What a wonderful looking person. I'm just checking out the hairstyle as I'm talking. I don't know. No, I'm checking, I'm talking, I'm looking up, I'm saying, I don't love it. Yeah, everyone don't love it. What the hell can you do? There's nothing I can do about it, right? We're stuck with it. Kamala Harris is reportedly giving a speech in Pittsburgh. You know, her speeches are very short. About her plan to, quote, build wealth. She doesn't know anything about building wealth. But she's been in office for 3.5 years. She's saying what she's going to do if she becomes president. But she's been there almost 4 years. She hasn't done anything except destroy our country with millions of people that shouldn't be here. And inflation. And inflation. What the damage that Sleepy Joe, you know, I'm tending to call him Sleepy Joe lately because I called him Crooked Joe. But now he's not like, is he, who's our president? We don't even have, do we have a president? Why doesn't he leave? Why doesn't he leave? Now think of it. Think of it. I call him Crooked Joe. That was very effective. It got him out of the race. I mean, guess what? No, we had a debate, and he didn't do too well in that debate. And they came to him and they said, you're down 21 points and you're going to lose. This can only happen to me. So I end up with somebody new. But here's the thing. All I have to do is expose her for what she is. She's a communist, okay? She's a communist. And this country is not ready for a communist and hopefully never will be, because that doesn't work. Kamala talks about all these things that she's going to do, but she's been here. Think of it. She's been here for almost 4 years, and she's not done anything. I will do this. I will do that. I will do that. What the hell? She could do them today. You know, they talk about the border. Oh, we have a plan for the border. I didn't have any help. I had a very hostile Congress. And what I did is I said, close the border to the Border Patrol. They're great. And the border was closed. We had the safest border in the history of our country. And that border was a mess. You know, in 2016, I think I won maybe because of the border. The border was very bad. And in 2020, I couldn't talk about the border because there was no problem. My people, my geniuses back there, they all said, sir, you can't really talk about the border. There's no problem. I said, well, I want to at least talk about it. I fix it. They said, people don't care, sir. They don't care. So I didn't talk about the border, but we did get millions of more votes. If you remember 2020, we got millions more votes. Millions. Look at that guy with a rug on over there. Look at him. Look at that handsome guy. You look good. He looks good. But we got millions more votes. But I'll tell you what, and we've been all over Pennsylvania today. 2016 or 2020, we never had the enthusiasm that we have right now. Look at this. Look at this. And the reason is because they're so bad. You know, we never had anything to compare it to. They're so bad. 4 years of destroying our country. We don't have a great country anymore. Remember, I had CAG, Keep America Great. But I couldn't use it because I said, America's not great. I hate to say it, but America soon will be greater than ever before. You watch. We got to win the election. We got to win the election. And I can't call her Harris either. You know, Harris, when I say Harris, nobody knows. Does that make sense? I say, and when Harris, everyone says, who's Harris? Nobody knows this person. No, they don't know her by the name Harris. They know her Kamala. It's strange. The name Harris. And when Harris, and people say, who is that Harris? Nobody knows who the hell I'm talking about. You know that? Lee, nobody knows you're a good lawyer. Maybe we have to change your name. You know, but nobody knows a nice name, Harris. I know some people named Harris. They're nice people. She happens to be not a nice person. She happens to be a person that's destroyed everything she's ever touched. Kamala's ruinous economic policies have already cost the typical household $29,000 through rampant inflation. $29,000 per household. She's a one-woman economic wrecking ball, and if she gets 4 more years, her radical agenda will smash the economy into rubble and grind your financial situation right into the dust. You can't have it. You can't have it. We've had it. We've had it. The guy is incompetent, and she's incompetent also. She had the other interview with the other guy, who was a nice guy, I think, from Philadelphia, from Pennsylvania. And he was a nice guy. He was asking her all these. They don't take like I do. Anybody who wants to go. What the hell difference does it make? They have. And how dishonest was ABC? It was 3-on-1. How about this David Muir and the other woman? I never heard of her. I don't know. How the hell did she get there? I never heard of her. But David Muir, when I say crime numbers are rising, he interrupts me, kept interrupting. And he said, we have it by fact that crime numbers are going down. I said, anybody that thinks crime is going down is a serious brain problem. And then it got announced the following day that Trump was right, that crime was up 45%. How about them? And I thought she was terrible in the debate. She didn't answer any questions. All she did is tell lies. Bloodbath. She talked about Charlottesville. All these things were all, I hate the word debunked, but it says it. They were all debunked, every one of them. And people said it. Well, the radical left didn't say it, but they've all been fully debunked. All she did was tell lies. But when it came time to ask a question like, what are you going to do about inflation? What are you going to do about keeping taxes low? She was unable to even talk. But the one on Oprah was the worst one, in my opinion. Oprah wanted to climb under the table. It was so embarrassing. She couldn't answer the simplest question. So vote Trump and your incomes will soar, your net worth will skyrocket, your energy cost and grocery prices will come tumbling down, and we will bring back the American dream, bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. The American dream. We don't talk about the American dream anymore, you know that? Mr. Congressman, what a great congressman. I'm going to introduce you guys, but what a good warrior you are. Thank you. We don't talk about the American dream, right? Anymore. We used to talk about it all the time. Today, they don't talk about it. Don't lose hope. We have to have hope. Don't lose hope. Our country's an embarrassment. The whole world is laughing at us. We're going to be stronger. They weren't laughing at us 4 years ago. They were not unhappy to see me head off. And they said, thank goodness we'll never have to see him or deal with him again. You know, China had to pay $472 billion in tariffs. No other president took in 10 cents from China. Not 10 cents. No president took in 10 cents. And remember this, and I just say this, if you look at Ukraine and Russia, but they say Russia. I stopped the Russian pipeline. It's called Nord Stream 2. Nobody ever heard of it until I came along. I stopped the biggest economic development job, the biggest job they've ever done. I stopped it cold. When Biden came in, he let them build, but he killed our Keystone pipeline, which we needed. He killed Keystone, so he killed, but think of it. And remember this about Russia. Under Bush, they took a lot. Under Biden and Barack Hussein Obama. Has anyone ever heard of him? Barack Hussein, a lot of people say he's actually running the country right now. I don't think so. I don't think so. But some people say he's running our country. But I don't think it's Biden. Under Barack Hussein Obama, they took a lot, right? Under Biden, they're taking everything. They're taking everything. This is Russia. They're taking everything. I mean, Ukraine is destroyed. It's destroyed. They could have made a deal. And you didn't even have to make a deal. Putin was never going in if I were president. But even if he did, you could have made a deal. Now the whole place is destroyed. The cities are knocked down. Millions of people are dead. Far more people are dead than anybody knows. Far more people. When you see those cities get knocked down and they say 2 people are injured, it's all a lot of fake news, I'll tell you. The people are dead. Millions of people. And now the whole place has been, the cities have been knocked down, the whole place. They could have made a deal 3 years ago and everything would be happy, vibrant. Their heritage wouldn't have been broken. Those beautiful golden towers are taken down. All of those beautiful ancient towers are rubble on the ground now. I mean, any deal they make, what's the deal? They have to go back. Take 100 years to rebuild, and you can never rebuild it like it was. That should have never happened. It would have never happened if I was president. And you know what? It didn't happen. And even radical left lunatic Democrats say, I will say, if Trump was president, it wouldn't have happened. Putin would have never done it. I said, don't do it, Vladimir. Don't even think. We're not going to do it, Vladimir. I said, Vladimir, we're not going to do that, Vladimir. And China, I had the same almost identical conversation with President Xi of China. Don't go in. Don't go in. He's got planes circling Taiwan. They're circling. He wants that so badly. And Vladimir wanted it badly. That was the apple of his eye. Ukraine was the apple of his eye. But I said, don't do it. He would have never gone in. Would have never happened. All these things would have never happened. But Ukraine now, I see Zelensky is here. I think Zelensky's the greatest salesman in history. Every time he comes into the country, he walks away with $60 billion. Billion! Walks in with $60 billion. He wants them to win this election so badly. But I would do differently. I will work out peace as president-elect. If I win this election, the first thing I'm going to do is call up Zelensky and call up President Putin, and I'm going to say, you got to make a deal. This is crazy. Crazy. They asked Biden, when was the last time you spoke to Putin? He didn't know. Of course he didn't know. What a stupid question. Of course he doesn't know. How would he know a thing like that? But it's been like years. And they keep bombing, cities pouring down, bombing. It's horrible. Actually, they're reduced now to using young boys and old men. Young boys and old men, because their people have been killed. So many of their people have been killed that they are using young boys to fight the war and old men. How about that? It's what a horrible thing has happened just because, and it's our fault because it's a war that should have never been allowed to happen, and we had the power that it would never have happened. We have an incompetent leader in Biden, and we have somebody who's worse in this new one that they threw into the ring. Central to Kamala's agenda for economic destruction is her plan to impose the largest individual tax hikes in American history onto our public, the largest small business tax hike in history, the largest capital gains tax hike in history. How about the capital gains tax, right? How about that one? And even the brand new wealth confiscation tax or unrealized capital gain. How about that? Unrealized. You know, I know a lot of people that are rich, but they have no cash. They're rich as hell, but what are they going to do? They have to pay cash to unrealized. In other words, you pay a capital gains tax even though you're not selling your property, your stock, or whatever it might be. I don't think it's ever even been done. It's been thought of by communist nations, but I don't think it's ever been done. You know, her father is a fascist. He's a Marxist, and he's a teacher of Marxist economics. What the hell are we doing? What are we doing? Where have we come? Which will annihilate, if they do that unrealized capital gain, which I can't believe they can pull it off, but if they do it, it'll annihilate the stock market and wipe out the savings of millions of seniors and middle-class families. It'll wipe out our country. Our country will be driven in, I think anyway it'll happen. You know, a lot of people say the only reason the stock market's high is everyone thinks I'm going to win the election. I believe that's true. A lot of the biggest, smartest. Uncle Sam? Look, it's Uncle Sam. Uncle Sam is here. Do you agree with that? Uncle Sam says, no, a lot of people agree. I think it's going to be horrible. We don't win for so many other reasons, too, but you'll have a depression like 1929. Kamala Harris is the tax queen. And she's coming for your money, she's coming for your pensions, and she's coming for your savings unless you defeat her in November and want to take away your guns. Remember that. Always remember that. As president, I will keep Kamala's greedy hands out of your pockets, and we will deliver gigantic tax cuts. I gave you the largest tax cuts in history, and we are going to go further. That's what created the greatest economy. You know, when they say compare yourself now, but do something else. Compare costs now. Compare the cost of bacon with the cost of bacon 4 or 5 years ago. Compare the cost of just groceries. I mean, some of these things have gone up 4, 5, 6 times. Energy, interest rates. How about, I was at 2% interest rates. Now they're at 10%, but you can't get the money, so you got to keep going up. Okay, you're not at 10% if you can't get the money. We will have, I'm very proud of this, and then she copied me on one of them, only one. I'm waiting for the others. We will have no tax on tips. That was an easy one. We will have no tax on overtime. You work overtime. And for our seniors who have been decimated by the stupidity of inflation, these people, what they did to you on inflation, we will have no tax on Social Security benefits. No tax. You've been decimated. They took it all away. They took it all away from you. And for all the suburban households paying high property taxes here in Pennsylvania, I will restore the SALT deduction. Do you know what that is? SALT deduction. You will. To save you thousands of dollars. Maybe I shouldn't bother with, but that's a good one, but you guys don't know what the hell it is. That's a good one. People think of New York, but it actually affects you very much, too. I think I'll keep it off of Pennsylvania. You don't care. You didn't like that one so much, but it's actually pretty good. It's no wonder that Kamala Harris was just officially endorsed by IRS agents. Do you believe it? That's when you'd say, I'd rather not have that endorsement. But I've been endorsed by virtually every police group in the entire nation. Every police group. Almost every sheriff's group, every police group, every one of them. We just had one, the Fraternal Order. We just had 400,000 policemen. That's the biggest of all the unions, and they endorsed me. And this is the first time in decades, just got endorsed by the rank and file members of the Teamsters, which I happen to think is amazing. That was a surprise. That's automatic for the Democrats, and they now the bosses didn't endorse me, but they had a problem because they got 30% of the vote. We got actually 60 or 61% of the vote. Can you believe it? So the people that were in the 61, the people that want us, they said, well, how come you didn't endorse them? Why do you? They're just going to take a pass. But maybe that's okay. That's all right. We know where they stand, and that's good. Kamala Harris is the candidate of the tax collectors and the Washington bureaucrats. I am the candidate of the American worker, and I always will be. I always will be. But perhaps Kamala's biggest tax hike of all is her vicious attack on Pennsylvania energy. You're under attack. If anybody here believes that she will let your energy industry continue like fracking, you should immediately go to a psychiatrist and have your head examined. On dozens of occasions, Kamala said that she intends to ban fracking. I'm going to ban it. I'm going to ban it. I think we have a clip. Would you like to see a clip? I spend a lot of money on these clips. Spend a lot of money on these clips.
That's why I am committed to passing a Green New Deal, creating clean jobs, and finally putting an end to fracking once and for all.
Mama Kamala just don't give a frack.
Isn't that great? He's not very funny. Can you? That guy. Those three guys, they're being blown away by Gutfeld. You know, Gutfeld totally dominates. Those three guys. You remember that guy? When I first ran, it was like 2015, thinking about running. I was going to run. I went on his show, right? And he goes, The Tonight Show, which is dying. They're all dying. Where's Johnny Carson? Bring back Johnny. It made you appreciate, right, Uncle Sam? It made you appreciate the greatness of Johnny Carson and these guys. These three guys, they're so bad, all three of them. All three of them. But this one, I go on his show, and he goes, Is that your real hair? I said, yeah. He said, do you mind if I mess it up? I said, I'd prefer no. Do you remember this? I said, I'd prefer it if you didn't, to be honest, but if you have to. So he grabs it, and he starts really going crazy, right? And everybody laughed, and it was a big thing, and it was a big hit. It was all over the place, and he got great ratings and all. And 6 months later, he went out because he was under pressure to apologize because he humanized Donald Trump. Do you remember? And he stood up and he said, I'd like to apologize. 6 months ago, or whatever it was, I messed up Donald Trump's hair and it humanized him and he became president. And I would like to apologize. How weak and pathetic is a guy like that? And his show died, but the other two shows are dying. The one on ABC is dying. He was the worst host in the history of the Academy Awards. Remember I did that? Remember I wrote I put a truth. Everybody should go to Truth immediately. And by the way, we also love Elon, I have to tell you. Gave me a big endorsement, big one. But remember in the Academy Awards, I said how he's the worst host in the history of the Academy Awards. And this stupid guy goes up, and just before the Best Picture of the Year, the show is almost over. They're waiting for the Best Picture of the Year. He gets up and he says, and his wife said, please don't do it. Please, darling, don't go out. His manager said, don't do it. I have to do it. He goes out and reads my truth to the entire audience right before the prime time, the Best Picture. And it said basically, he is the worst host of the history. He reads the whole thing. And then I think he said something like, ha, 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 he thinks he bothers me, or some crap like that. I said, he's one of the dumbest human beings ever. He should have listened to his wife. What a dope. But all three of them are bad. The hatred. You know, it's supposed to be comedy. It's hatred. It's like terrible. But they're dying. And did anyone see the Gutfeld for last week? So, actually, I said it in the show. You know, so Gutfeld had the highest ratings in his history. And it was the #1 show of the week on all of television, not just on cable, on all of television. It beat all the network shows. But I told her on the show, Gutfeld hated me for a long time, hated me. And then he started saying, you know, he didn't know me, but he hated me. People that know me like me. But he just couldn't stand me. And he was pretty strong on that. And then what happened is he started to say, you know, I don't like him, but he gets everything done. He rebuilt our military. We have no wars. He took out the worst terrorists in history. We don't have any problems. We didn't have one terror attack during my administration. With all the terror attacks all over the world, we didn't have countries fighting each other. They wouldn't have done it without my permission. They would call me up to ask whether or not they could go to war with some other country. And I said, you can't do that. And if you do that, I'm going to put big, big taxes all over your country. Okay, we won't do it. And they'd call me up the next day. We've decided not to go to the war. We had no wars. Israel was free. Ukraine was free. They weren't. The whole world. Viktor Orban, who's the prime minister of Hungary, he said, if you want to solve, because now everything's blowing up. The Middle East is going to end up in World War III. Ukraine's going to end up in World War III. So many different. We could end up in World War III with incompetent leadership. With smart leadership, it would never happen. But it's tougher now than it would have been 3-4 years ago. I mean, the whole place. And more importantly, no matter what you do, you can't get those cities back. You can't get that civilization back. And you can't get 3 or 4 million lives back. You can't do it. But Gutfeld said on the show, he said, you know, I don't love this guy, but man, everything he touches, he fixes, he gets it done. Our country was doing great. We had the best economy. And he asked for an interview, and I said, you know, I'll do it, but I'm begrudgingly, 10 minutes. I don't really want to do it because he doesn't like me. I guess I don't like anybody that doesn't like me, I'll be honest. When they don't like me, I don't like them, okay? Sounds childish. Look at the wall. Mr. Wall, stand up, please, Mr. Wall. When they don't like me, Lee, I don't like them. That's the way it is. Call it a personality defect. But we did an interview, and it was supposed to be 15 minutes, and it lasted for 2.5 hours. It just never stopped. There was a great chemistry. We actually liked each other. And he likes me. And he took that interview and he put it on 5 shows, and his ratings went through the roof. And he's held it. I mean, he's the hottest guy on late night and beyond late night, maybe in a lot of ways. But we love Sean Hannity too, right? And we love Laura. And we love Jesse. And Janine. And Pete. We like Pete Hegseth. Ainsley's good. We have a lot of good people. And then we have some bad ones too, including on Fox. You ever notice on Fox, they put me on, I do a great job, and then they follow me with a horrible commercial. You know, I say, what the hell is the good of me doing it if Roger Ailes never allowed bad commercials? What's the purpose of me doing a nice show? And then they put 9 horrible commercials on, which are all lies. Or they put somebody on that's good, and then they always feel like they have to put somebody on who's bad. So the net result is a neutral. And you say, what are you doing it for? You can't do that. Fox should put just the good people on, the people that want to make America great again. They shouldn't put the guys that are professional scammers on. And they shouldn't allow bad commercials. Just a few months ago, Kamala imposed a natural gas export ban. Can you believe that? That is brutalizing Pennsylvania energy jobs. You know about it, right? And Kamala's Green New Deal insanity, I call it the Green New Scam, is shutting down power plants all across America. As a result, Pennsylvania electricity prices are up, despite all of the oil and gas and everything, are up 35% in a very short period of time, with all that stuff underneath your feet, in particular you. Since she took office, we are looking at another rise now of anywhere from 30 to 50% very quickly. And we have so much. We have so much. And you're hit about as hard as anybody. If you vote for me, I will cut your energy and electricity prices in half within 12 months. We're going to cut them down in half. I will terminate the natural gas export ban, which makes it impossible for you to sell your product to a lot of countries that want it desperately because they don't have what we have. We are so rich, we have the greatest, and we don't use it. It makes you really. We have all of this stuff more than anybody. We don't use it. I will get Pennsylvania energy workers pumping, fracking, drilling, and producing like never before. Right? And I don't know about how you feel, but I do, because this was the greatest company in the world 60 or 70 years ago. We are also going to keep U.S. steel right here in America. We have to be strong and powerful again, and we must put tariffs on foreign predators. They are predators, so that they don't destroy our steel industry. The people that like me the most of the steel, they were dead when I came into office. They were dead. And I put taxes on China. China was dumping massive amounts of steel to destroy our companies. I put a 50% tariff, then I raised it in some cases to 100%. And at a certain level, they said, no mas, we're not doing it. Remember, no mas, Roberto. We love Roberto Durando. And no mas, no mas. And they said no mas, and that was the end of it. And our steel companies were saved and thrived. And now we're losing our steel companies again because we have stupid people in the White House. We must keep our steel companies, and we must keep making steel more than any. If we have a war, are we going to call up, gee, China, could you send us some steel, please? Oh, I forgot about that. If we have a war, think of it. If we need it for our military, How do we build our tanks? How do we build our ships? We wouldn't have any steel. We have to make U.S. Steel great again. It doesn't have to be what it was. It was the greatest company in the world. Think of it. U.S. Steel was the greatest company in the whole world. That would be like whatever. You know, today our big companies are like Google and this and that. They're not the same. U.S. Steel is the strength. Google is all, give me a break. Not the same. Not the same. You see all the stuff that Google and Facebook and all what, they got caught cheating on the last election, the bad things they did, the 51 agents and all of the stuff, the laptop. Remember, it was Russia. It was Russia. No, it was Hunter, as we said. And they affected the election very much. It came out many points, 11 points, 12 points. But that's what we have. And we can never let that happen again. And I said, we're going to go after anybody that gets caught cheating on the election. We're going to go after them harder than anyone's ever been sought before. Because these people are really a threat. They are a threat to democracy. The Democrats are a threat to democracy. That's the real threat. Under my plan, America will be a manufacturing superpower once again. We will be the envy of the world, and we will build that incredible future right here in Pennsylvania. Boy, did I come close. I almost said, I better be careful, because, you know, if I even mention, they'll report it, because I don't want to be. Should I say it, Uncle Sam? I almost said the state of Pennsylvania, but I meant the Commonwealth. I never said the state. I was able to catch it because I'm cognitively very strong. Very, very strong. I was able to catch it. Did you notice that? Right here, and I stopped for a second. I said Pennsylvania. I didn't want. Oh, that's a bad mistake. When you do the state of Pennsylvania, you get yourself, I've seen it. Well, the worst was Biden. He's in Florida, and he says, thank you for being so nice. I love Iowa. I've always loved. I said, remember, he was in New Hampshire, and he said he was in Maine. I never did that. You know, if you do that, it's career-threatening. As it turned out, it was career-threatening. But if you do that once, Winston Churchill was this great speaker. Great. I get much bigger crowds than him, but nobody ever says I'm a great speaker. Winston Churchill was a great speaker. If he ever was in London and he said, I'm in Beirut, or because Biden is capable of that, he could go that far off. And, you know, he compared Florida to Iowa, and then he said it was Idaho, the greatest potato place in the world. He said with Iowa, remember, he said, I love the potatoes in Iowa. No, he meant, right? He didn't mean Iowa. I mean, the whole thing. But I said, you know, if you were Winston Churchill and you make a mistake as to location, like I'm here with you, and if I say, it's great to be in the great state of Illinois, could happen. No matter how great your speech is, you could make the greatest speech in history, and people will go, that was a disaster, right? He did it all the time, but she's worse than him. I'm telling you, watch. She's not as smart as him. He's not smart. He never was smart. He wasn't smart 40 years ago. Always, he was a hale and hearty guy, well met. Did you ever hear Shakespeare? He was hale and hearty and well met, but he wasn't a smart person. But she is a very dumb person, and we can't do that. We can't do that. I don't want to be rude. I don't want to be rude. I don't want to be rude. Another front in Kamala's war on workers is her gigantic migrant invasion. Over the past 3 years, border czar. Do you notice she said, I'm not a border czar. She was a border czar for 3.5 years. Now she's saying I had nothing to do. Whether she was the border czar or just the person in charge of the border, it's been the worst thing ever, maybe one of the worst things ever to happen to our country. Look at what's happening in Springfield, Ohio. Look at what's happened to that beautiful town. Look at what's happened to Aurora in Colorado, where you have a radical left Democrat governor who doesn't have a clue. He's so scared. The Venezuelans are attacking. They're in the real estate business. They're taking over real estate. They're in there like I was, but they take it over with guns. I took it over with the brain. They take it over with guns. But they're in, think of it, Aurora, and they have weapons that the military doesn't even have. AK-47s. I learned about AK-47s 3 weeks ago. That's not a nice. I'm getting very good at learning about weapons. I'm learning a lot about guns. Over the past 3 years, Border Czar Harris has inundated small towns all across America with hundreds of thousands of migrants. Not only has she invited them across our border, unfortunately, she's also illegally flown them in. Remember, she was making excuses. No, we haven't really had too many. And then we found out that they're flying in by big, beautiful jets. They're flying over the border. She's trying to say that the border was sort of secure. It wasn't secure. Although the greatest graph in the history of graphs, a thing that I love perhaps as much as any person I've ever met, is my wonderful graph on immigration and the lack of people coming. Do we have that graph? Can we put that graph up? This is my favorite graph. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love that graph, Lee. David, I love it. Oh, isn't that a beautiful? I don't care what it says. I don't care if it said I did a lousy job. That's the most beautiful piece of paper I've ever seen. You see the arrow on the bottom? That was the week that I left office. See the arrow on the bottom, the big red arrow? That's the lowest level. This was done by the Border Patrol. This looks like a Trump special. It wasn't. That was done by the U.S. Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. ICE is phenomenal. That was done by the Border Patrol. That was the lowest level of immigration we've ever had in the country. And then these idiots, these stupid idiots took over, and look at what happened to our numbers. Look at what happened. Look at what happened to the numbers. But is that the most beautiful? I love the colors, the blue, the gold, the red. There's everything about it I love the stars. Because if I didn't look over to the right to see that beautiful graph, I said, put up that graph, please. If I didn't look over to the right, I wouldn't be here with you tonight, and that would be a very terrible thing. What a beautiful thing. Think of it, Uncle Sam. Immigration saved my life. Think of it. Immigration saved my life. No, it's great. Well, thank you. And thank you. I sleep with that pace. Every night I go to bed with it. Say, darling, it's time to go to bed. Let's go. What a beautiful sight. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Great job that you were able to get it so fast. I didn't think we were going to be using it. I didn't think I was going to use it in Butler. It was just, I always use it at the end if I use it. I only use it, you would know, you go to every damn rally, right? He's at every rally. And he makes a lot of money. I think he's probably an accountant. He's a CPA. He's a genius. But he goes to every rally. But, right, I rarely use it. But when I use it, it's always on my left, and it's always at the end of the speech. This time I just thought of it. As you can see, I don't use the teleprompter too much. Isn't it nice to have a president that doesn't have to use a teleprompter? Isn't that nice? Right? It's really nice. Thank you very much. By the way, we had a rally in Lee's part of the woods out on Long Island, and that was unbelievable. We filled up where the Islanders play and the Nets were playing. They used to play there, a big, like a Madison Square Garden type arena. We filled it up. We could have filled it up 3 times. It was an amazing, just less than a week ago, right? That was great. Lee was there. Kamala has illegally flown in more than 500,000 migrants right when she was saying, no, we don't want to do that. And she's got, these guys actually want these people in our country. It's not even believable. Working with left-wing nonprofits to inundate Pennsylvania communities, changing the character of small towns and villages all over our country and changing them forever. They will never be the same. They will never be. Do you think Springfield will ever be the same? I don't think. The fact is, and I'll say it now, you have to get them the hell out. You have to get them out. I'm sorry. To get them out. Can't have it. Can't have it. They've destroyed it. It's terrible. It's terrible to say, and it's a tough thing to do. You know, you're going to take in some murderers and things, and you'll put them on the planes and the buses, and you're going to start doing it. Dwight Eisenhower holds the record. Believe it or not, he was a moderate kind of a guy, General Eisenhower, president. And he has the record. He couldn't stand people pouring into our country, and he took a lot and took them out. He's very strong on that. And we have to be strong. We have no choice because this is not sustainable by any country. There's no country that can do this. I mean, what were they thinking when they did it? What were they thinking? This is like, who would allow men to play in women's sports? Well, this is bigger. This is bigger. But it's the same thought. Who would allow? We're allowing open borders where millions of people that we have no idea who they are, where they come from. We don't know if they're murderers, if they're killers. Many are murderers, though, because prison populations are being released into our country. And these are tough people. They're tough people, and they're vicious, evil people in many cases. And we can't have, but it's very tough because we'll take one young woman with 2 children and they'll put them in a bus to take them back to some country, and it'll be put in the fake news, and it'll be a terrible story. It's terrible. And the whole country will turn against. It's a very tough thing to do. We have to do it carefully. But we have to get murderers and drug dealers and all these people that are coming into our country. We have to get them out of here. It's not sustainable. And not far from here, the 4,000-person town of Charleroi. Do people? Oh, you know Charleroi? In Charleroi, Pennsylvania, has seen a 2,000% increase in the population of their town. Do you know that, right? They have all. Has your town changed slightly? Where are you from, Charleroi? Put up. Okay, good. I just took a picture with that handsome guy. So, would you say your town has changed just a little bit over the last couple of months? It's like, is it a different place? Totally different place? It's what? It's completely different. Where are the other people that started screaming about Charleroi? Where are they? Okay, has your beautiful town changed? Yes. It's you can't do it. 80%, think of it, of the capital, and it's composed of lawless gangs. We're not gonna do this. All of the gang members, MS-13, they're being brought into our country because Venezuela doesn't want it. Remember this. Venezuela has sent their criminals into our country, has emptied their jails, not fully. They've still got people, but I don't know why, because I would have been worse than him. I would have emptied it. If I ran one of those countries, Honduras, any of them, even Mexico to an extent is doing it, and they shouldn't be doing it at all because they're getting rich off of us. They're getting rich. They shouldn't be doing it at all. They're going to stop immediately. But so many of these countries, I would do it. If I were the president of one of these countries, and they're all smart, street-smart people, I would have had them all. I don't know why Venezuela does it, but they have a lot of the jail population in our country. They probably couldn't get enough buses and planes. That's probably the only reason. But they're dumping jail populations, the criminals of the street, into our country. And there's only one thing that can happen, and it's really bad. And it's happening. And now you see it. And I said this 3 years ago when I heard about it. I said, this is only going to be bad. Think of the cruelty Kamala Harris is inflicting on the people of Pennsylvania. You live in a small town your whole life. You pay your taxes. You really are exemplary. You pay everything, you do everything, you love your town, you love your country. You know the town so well, by name, you're just so proud of it. And suddenly she flies in thousands and thousands of migrants from the most dangerous places on earth, and they deposit them right smack in the middle of your community. And you're a nice person, and you want to be politically correct. I see it very much in the cities, like the governor of Colorado. The guys are real stiff, but he's up talking. And he says, well, these are fine people. He doesn't want to say that they have AK-47s and they're taking over large portions of real estate. He doesn't want to say it. They want to be politically correct. It's happening in all of these towns that we're talking about because the mayors are afraid, and they're afraid politically, too. They don't know, am I supposed to say this is good, or am I supposed to say... And Democrat mayors, every one of them, is saying it's a wonderful thing, and not one of them believes it. But they're afraid to go against the stupid party that's in Washington. So now your schools can teach because the majority, they can't teach because the majority of students don't speak the language. The housing market is destroyed. Crime is rampant. The jobs are taken by migrants illegally imported to our countries. Your school classes, you can't get in. You can't get into your hospitals. Nobody can get into the hospitals. They're driving to hospitals 300-400 miles away. The media is desperate to stop us from having this conversation. The fake news, look at all of them. They have a lot of people there. Oh, they have some of the big ones. They have some of the big ones. Wow, oh, that's very impressive. Yeah, they have some good ones, too. But that's exactly why we must have this conversation. We have to have it because the media doesn't want to talk about it. You know, they don't want to do anything that's going to embarrass Kamala because I don't know why. Number one, the country's going to die. They're going to die. They're already dying to a large extent. But if I get elected, they're going to do much better because we get higher ratings. We get the high. You know, Greg Gutfeld got the highest ratings in the history of his show. And think of it, the number one show of the night, including networks. Nobody knows that. And maybe I think the number one show of the week. No, but they'll do much better, but they don't realize that. They haven't realized that yet. This isn't an attack on any group of people. It's common sense. We're really talking about, you know, we're the party of common sense. We're conservative, all that. We are the party of common sense. That's what we are. That's what we are. We want to have strong borders, great education, school choice. Does everybody like school choice? We want to move the Department of Education. We're ranked at the bottom of the list, the worst. We spend more money per pupil than any other country by far. And yet we're at the bottom of the list. Out of 40, we're ranked about number 40. And I'm going to close the Department of Education and move education back to the states. And we're going to do it fast. Maybe I'll have you do that. I'll use Lee. Maybe I'll have you. You could do it. That's not too easy. We'll get somebody great. We'll get Lee Zeldin is here with us tonight. I think that's the job for Lee. Or Vivek. Or we'll get somebody. We like Vivek. We need somebody with a lot of energy, a lot of strength, energy, and intelligence. But it takes centuries to build the unique character of each state. And we are going to. And you know, when you do that, so the number one rated country is Norway. The number two is like Denmark. And, you know, on it goes. Spend much less money than we do, and they have the finest education. In New York City, a few years ago with de Blasio, who is one of the worst mayors in history, by the way, he said, we're going to go with the Norwegian system. That didn't work out too well, okay? You know, when they start throwing the teachers out the window, that wasn't working out. They don't do that in Norway. Historically, they haven't thrown too many teachers out the window in Norway. But we're going to make it good. And you know what's going to happen is out of the 50 states, you're going to have 35, like different ones. Iowa will do good. A lot of the states will do very good. I can think of probably 30, 35 will be good. And 5 will be okay. 10 will be okay. You'll have 4 or 5 that will be terrible. But that's okay. We have to control it. But you'll have Idaho. You'll have Idaho will do a great job. They, you know, no debt, no this. They run a great state. A lot of places will have will have education that can compete with Norway and Denmark and this, but we'll have certain places, and it's the same places like Gavin Newsom, who's a terrible governor. You'll probably have a problem in California, but what you do is you give it to the local communities, and they'll have a great educational system. You don't want to give it to somebody like Kamala because she destroyed San Francisco and then destroyed the whole state. But reckless migration policy can change it very quickly, and it can destroy everything in its way, just like we've seen in London and Paris and Minneapolis. Look at what's happened in London. Look what's happening in Paris. If Kamala Harris wins this election, she will flood Pennsylvania cities and towns with illegal migrants from all over the world, and Pennsylvania will never be the same. You will never be the same. When I'm president, all migrant flights to Pennsylvania will stop immediately. By the way, all migrant flights. Not only to Pennsylvania, everywhere. No, but how about they get caught? You know, we just found that out a few months ago. They're saying, no, we're fighting. In the meantime, people are just pouring in. No, we want to do it. And then we learned that the airplanes are flying. That means that, it's just a big con job. Remember this. For a long time, she's been talking about her experience at McDonald's. I worked at McDonald's over the French fries. It was so hot. I think I'm going to go to a McDonald's next week someplace. I'm going to go. Might not be in your place. I'm going to go to a McDonald's, and I'm going to work the French fry job for about a half an hour. I want to see how it is. But she said she worked, and she grew up in terrible conditions. She worked at McDonald's. It was such. She never worked there. And these fake news reporters will never report it. They don't want to report it because they're fake. They're fake. They don't want to report it. She never worked at McDonald's, but it was a big part of her resume. They went to the different places. Did she work here? Did she work here? Did she work here? She said, we don't know who the hell she is. Leave us alone. We're making hamburgers. We will end the invasion of small-town Pennsylvania, and we will end the destruction of America. It's destroying our country. This country is going to be better than ever before, but we have to do certain things, and we have to do it quickly. And this is one of the big reasons that we're leading in the polls in Pennsylvania, but I think we're doing a lot better than even the polls say. In the latest Emerson poll, we're up in Pennsylvania, Arizona, Wisconsin, and Georgia pretty substantially. In today's latest New York Times, if the New York Times gives me a good poll, you know we're way up. The Siena poll, we're up in North Carolina by 3, in Georgia by 4, and in Arizona by 5. Those are swing states, very important. And a poll on a state that Republicans just haven't won in many, many years for president. You have a wonderful governor there who's really working, Glenn Youngkin. He's working hard. He's really pushing it hard. He's in charge of it, and he's doing a good job. A poll just came out in Virginia where we're leading in the state of Virginia. Leading if we win Virginia. If we win Virginia, I don't even know if I need Pennsylvania, but we want to get it anyway. We want to get Pennsylvania. Remember last time? So last time we did better than 16, but in 2016 we were leading by hundreds of thousands of votes in Pennsylvania, and they refused to announce it, remember? And then they announced Wisconsin or Michigan, which we won. But all night long I said, when are they going to announce Pennsylvania? It would be impossible to catch us based on the numbers. If I lost every vote from then till the end, but they waited till 2 o'clock in the morning, You know why they did that, right? They were trying to see if they could accumulate enough ballots. Very dangerous thing. This is a bad, bad system. And we're winning Pennsylvania, but despite the fact that I almost hate to say that we're winning, why don't I say we're tied so you go out and vote? Or we're down by 1. I always say, pretend you're down by 1. The point is you got to get a vote. We got to win. And we got to win, and you can't take any chances. But here in Pennsylvania, you also need to vote for your next Senator, Dave McCormick, who I know for a long time. And he's going to defeat Bob Casey. He's going to stop inflation and secure our borders. you want to come up for a second? Do you mind? I love this guy. He's a military hero. He's a business hero. And he'll make a great senator. Come on up, David. Say something.
Mr. President, thank you. All right. Well, Mr. President, thank you so much for that great introduction. And we're going to win the presidency right here in the Senate majority in the Keystone State. So thank you. And the reason we're going to win is because people in Pennsylvania feel like they've lost their economic security. Prices going out of control. The war on fossil fuels. They've lost their physical security. Crime in our cities. Illegal immigration. 4,000 fentanyl deaths. And people around the world, adversaries challenging us. So people in Pennsylvania want change. And what I tell them is, listen, it's a battle between common sense and these radical liberal policies under Kamala Harris. And Bob Casey's going to vote for her 99% of the time because he is a weak leader and a rubber stamp for this liberal agenda. And I say also, this is a race between strength and weakness. And when I talk about strength with G.T. Thompson and Sean Parnell, I say, listen, I was standing there at Butler, 15 feet away. I saw you get shot. I saw you go down. And I saw you come up with your fist and say, fight, fight, fight. That's why we're going to win. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, David. Thank you very much. And he's a good man, I'll tell you. Very successful guy. He goes through a lot to do this. And Bob Casey, I can tell you, I was there for 4 years at the highest level. I met everybody. This guy does nothing for Pennsylvania. He's not going to help your oil, your fracking. He's not going to help anything. And David will be a warrior for your Commonwealth. He will be a warrior, total warrior. So thank you, David. Thank you very much. We're also pleased to be joined. Oh, I have so many people here. I have congressmen, I have senators. It's brutal. You know, when you introduce people, you always miss a couple of them. But I'm going to apologize because I see somebody there that I think is a certain senator, but I'm not 100% sure. The eyes aren't what they used to be, I'll be totally honest. The brain is better than it used to be, but the eyes aren't what they used to be. But you always get yourself in trouble. But I'm going to introduce somebody that's been amazing, Congressman Glenn G.T. Thompson, who's sitting with us. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, G.T. Thank you very much. Great job. He's a warrior. Former Congressman Fred Keller. Fred, thank you very much. I saw him sitting there. A great gentleman who's a real leader, State Senate Majority Leader Joe Pittman. Joe? Whoa. Whoa. Hey, you're popular, Joe. What a family you have, too. What a great family. Thank you very much, Joe. Mayor of Slippery Rock, J.D. Longo. Thank you, J.D. Great job. Thank you. Great job. And a friend of mine who's a warrior and a very strong guy, tough guy. They had a bad deal with that election. It was terrible what happened. Sean Parnell. Sean, stand up. Yeah. They played around with 25,000 ballots. That was another unique one, wasn't it? What a disgrace that was. Anyway, we're 6 weeks away from the most important election in the history of our country. And here are the facts. Kamala Harris wants open borders. She will deliver rampant inflation, and she wants to pack the Supreme Court. You know that. Instead of 9 justices like we have now, Kamala wants to bring it up very substantially. Now, this is a number I heard 2 days ago, potentially to 25 justices, so she can rig the system, meaning not she, the whole party can rig the system, the party of communists. She wants to bring it up to 25. That's the first time I heard that number, but I heard it very loud and clear. She might as well have Congress. You know, Congress is supposed to be that, not the Supreme Court. No, they were very brave, the Supreme Court, very brave, and they take a lot of hits because of it. It should be illegal what happens. You know, you have these guys like playing the ref, like the great Bobby Knight. These people should be put in jail the way they talk about our judges and our justices, trying to get them to sway their vote, sway their decision. Kamala was an original creator of Defund the Police movement. Okay, so she was in Defund the Police for years. Anybody who wants to defund the police for even 1 week is not worthy of being president of the United States. Can you imagine? That's where she came from. That's where she came from. That's her theory, and that's her way, and that's her policy. You know what the policy is? She's changed 15 policies. You know, over the years, I've been like a student of politics for a long time, but I was on the other side. I was writing checks all the time, right? But I was on the other side. But I've never seen anyone go 15 for 15. I've seen guys change one policy, maybe two when they were little ones. She changed everything. She loves oil all of a sudden. She loves the police. About, when did that start? A few months ago. But let me tell you, they immediately go back to where they came from. Kamala Harris vowed to abolish ICE. These are great, great patriots, ICE. They take such hits. They are so tough and love our country so much. They get MS-13 out of our country. Under border czar Harris, Venezuela gangs, all these Venezuelan gangs have taken over entire areas of different places in our country, and she supports free health care for illegal aliens while our hospitals and emergency rooms are being overrun by migrants who come up here because they say, come up and we'll give you. Look, I feel sorry. I have a bigger heart than anybody, but you can't tell people to come up. We're going to give you education. We're going to give you free health care, because they're going to come up. And if you stop saying that, they won't come any longer. You can't do this. And Newsom does it, and all of them do it, and you can't do it. But migrants make it virtually it's unusable. I mean, the states become unusable, the school systems, the hospital. She lost more than, this is a number that's the worst number that you'll ever hear. I mean, think of it. Think of a big stadium that holds 55,000 people. She lost more than 325,000 migrant children. They're gone. Nobody knows where they are. Many of them are dead. Many of them are in sex trade. Many of them are dead. They've been trafficked. They've been raped. 325,000 children are missing. If one child is missing, it's too many. Think of it. Under her, 325,000 children. As California Attorney, she will destroy our country. As California Attorney General, she redefined child sex trafficking, a term, deadly weapon, and rape of an unconscious person as nonviolent crimes. She said they are all nonviolent. She praised the idea of 70 to 80% tax. She wants a tax rate of 70 to 80%. Will you be happy paying 80%? I don't think so. She wants to ban the sale of gas-powered vehicles, which will destroy the Pennsylvania way of life. And she even endorsed free sex changes. At first they said, you got to go back and tell me this. And this was recently. She endorsed free sex changes for illegal aliens in detention centers all over our country at taxpayer expense. You don't hear this on Oprah, do you? Think of that. Sex change, you're detained. You're being held in a detention center, and you say, I want to change. I want to become a woman. And they have to give you the operation, which is an immensely expensive operation on top of everything else, $250,000 at least, and then all the drugs involved and everything else. She's sick. I'm telling you, if you put her in, I don't think you will either. Uncle Sam? Uncle Sam, will you put her in? I don't think so. Stand up, Uncle Sam. No, it's terrible. As DA and as Attorney General, she destroyed San Francisco and she destroyed all of California. It's like a different place. It's not recognizable. And now she's coming to destroy the United States of America, and we're not going to let it happen. We can't let it happen. She led the change in California law so that if you steal less than $950, you are not prosecuted. And if you steal more than $950, you're actually not prosecuted either. But how about this? The kids are walking in with computers. They're putting stuff, they're adding it up so that if it's less than $950, they go into a judge. They say, Your Honor, it's less than, oh, okay, case dismissed. How sick? Is this country sick? Less than $1,000, you don't get prosecuted. She even lied about Joe Biden's cognitive abilities. Remember, she said, oh, he's fine, he's fine. A great disservice to the American people, because he's negotiating with Russia, China, North Korea. He's negotiating with people that are probably in a state of shock. They say, can you believe this? Because they're all at the top of their game. I know all of them. They're at the top of their game. And we are at the most dangerous point in the history of our country. We could end up in World War III because of this lunatic and her. She's so much worse. She wants to take away your guns and your rifles in violation of the Second Amendment. And she's a communist, and everybody knows it, and our country is not ready for a communist president and won't be for a long, long, long time to come. That's why less than 2 months from now, we are going to tell her that we've had enough. Our country can't take it anymore. Kamala, you've been a terrible vice president. You'll be the worst president in the history of our country, superseding even crooked Joe Biden. Kamala, you are a disaster to the United States of America. Kamala, you are fired. You're fired. Get out. Get out. All right, so we have to talk business. I always thought women liked me. I never thought I had a problem. But the fake news keeps saying women don't like me. I don't believe it. I think, you know why? They like to have strong borders. They like to have safety. Nothing personal. I think they like me. But I make this statement. Thank you. I love you too. I love you too. Thank you. But I think they like me because I represent something that's very important. I make this statement to the great women of our country. Sadly, women are poorer than they were 4 years ago, much poorer, are less healthy than they were 4 years ago, are less safe on the streets than they were 4 years ago, are paying much higher prices for groceries and everything else than they were 4 years ago, are more stressed and depressed and unhappy than they were 4 years ago, and are less optimistic and confident in the future than they were 4 years ago. I believe that. I will fix all of that and fast, and at long last, this nation and national nightmare will end. It will end. We've got to end this national nightmare. Because I am your protector. I want to be your protector. As president, I have to be your protector. I hope you don't make too much of it. I hope the fake news doesn't go, oh, he wants to be their protector. Well, I am. As president, I have to be your protector. I will make you safe at the border, on the sidewalks of your now violent cities, in the suburbs where you are under migrant criminal siege, and with our military protecting you from foreign enemies, of which we have many today because of the incompetent leadership that we have. You will no longer be abandoned, lonely, or scared. You will no longer be in danger. You're not going to be in danger any longer. You will no longer have anxiety from all of the problems our country has today. You will be protected, and I will be your protector. Women, Women will be happy, healthy, confident, and free. You will no longer be thinking about abortion. It's all they talk about, abortion, because we've done something that nobody else could have done. It is now where it always had to be, with the states and a vote of the people. And it is and will be with powerful exceptions like those that Ronald Reagan insisted on for rape, incest, and the life of the mother, but not allowing for Democrat-demanded late-term abortion in the 7th, 8th, or 9th month, or even execution of a baby after birth. Thank you. Thank you very much. Such an important topic. For 52 years, all legal scholars and experts wanted abortion to be with the states and to have a vote of the people. 52 years they fought for this. Republicans, Democrats, liberals, and conservatives. Everyone wanted abortion out of the federal government and into the states. 6 brilliant and very brave justices of the United States Supreme Court were able to do that for you, and they did it. It will never move back to the federal government. We'll never have the votes to do so, and nobody should want it to, because it must now have that very important vote of the people, something sought for many, many years. I have always defended and supported IVF fertility, and so has the Republican Party, and we gave you and give you total support on IVF. Don't let anyone tell you different. We are much stronger than the Democrats. We want beautiful babies in our country. We want you to have your beautiful, beautiful, perfect baby. We want those babies, and we need them. And I will protect women at a level never seen before. They will finally be healthy, hopeful, safe, and secure. Their lives will be happy, beautiful, and great again. And it's my honor to do so. It's my honor to do so. Because that's all they talk about. Our country's a mess. It's a mess. The borders are bad. The trade is bad. The inflation is bad. It's the worst time in your lives in our country. We're being laughed at by everybody in the world. Everything is wrong with our country. Nothing's right. And all they talk about is abortion. The fact is, for 52 years, they've been trying to do what we did. And the votes are all taking place in Ohio. It took place in Kansas. And it was more liberal than people would have thought. But it's taking place all over the land. And the vote's going to change, and it's being negotiated. But it's the vote of the people, and it's with the exceptions. We want to have the exceptions. Some people have to follow their heart. But it's hard not to have the exceptions. It really is. But that's all they talk about. The country's falling apart. We're going to end up in World War III. And all they can talk about is abortion. That's all they talk about. And it really no longer pertains, because we've done something on abortion that nobody thought was possible. And I give those 3 brilliant, if you think about it, and it's Thank you very much. It's an honor to be with you. And a special group of people, the farmers. Nobody's done for farmers what I've done. Unfortunately, they haven't followed through. We made a deal with China. It was one of my best deals that I made. I made a lot of good deals, but we made the USMCA, Mexico, Canada, which was terrific. But we had a specific deal with China where they were going to buy $50 billion worth of farm product. And it's interesting how we got there, because when the negotiation was going on, and it was a nasty negotiation, And I said to the farmers, just stick with me because we're going to do it. They're great negotiators. They're not going to go that fast. Just stick with me because you never had anybody negotiating for the farmers before me as president. And my people, I said, what are the numbers we're talking about? And they said 15 million, 15, not 50. I said, all right. So it's $15 billion worth of product that they were going to buy because they've been taking advantage of the farmers for years. This was like a penalty to China. And I thought they said 50, not 15. So the negotiations were going along. We were getting close. I said, how are you doing with the 50 billion? No, sir, we're close to 15. I said, what do you mean 15? You said 50. I said, no, I want 50. They said, that's not what we said. We said 15. I said, that's okay. Ask for 50. Tell them we have to have 50 billion, not 15. And I got it. The problem is, big problem, that now they don't enforce it. I enforced it. Every single week I'd go into the office, I'd say, how's China doing? Because you have to live up to that commitment. I'd say, how's China doing buying the product? Good, sir, good. They're doing good. And they were doing good because they knew I was watching. I don't think Biden is exactly watching. Do you? Does anybody think that Biden is, let's check it? I don't think so. And it's a shame. And that number is way lower than it's supposed to be. So the first thing I'd do is I would probably, my first call, I'm going to call up President Xi. I'm going to say, you have to honor the deal you made. We made a deal. You'd buy $50 billion worth of American farm product, and I guarantee you he will buy it 100%. He will buy it. Second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, you have to give the death penalty to your fentanyl dealers who are sending fentanyl. You know, in China, they give the death penalty. They don't have a drug problem because they give the death penalty. But I'm going to say second thing, and this affects you also. It affects everybody. We're losing hundreds of thousands of people a year. Comes through the southern border, now the weakest border in history. It was the best border we ever had when I was there. We built hundreds of miles of wall and everything else, and it was the best border. Now it's the weakest. I had a handshake deal with him. It was going to happen very quickly, and then this side didn't do anything about it. He said, and he suggested to me, anybody sends fentanyl to the United States, it's the death penalty. They get the maximum penalty. They would have done it, and then we had an election that didn't exactly work out too good, and it was a disgrace, frankly. And that deal went, and a lot of other bad things happened, like Russia attacking Ukraine, October 7th, inflation. A lot of bad things happened, the horrible way we got out of Afghanistan. So many things happened that wouldn't have happened, but it did nevertheless. But as to the farmers, we have a deal in place that China is supposed to buy $50 billion worth of our product, and they are not living up to it, and they were living up to it. And every farmer I spoke to a lot of them recently in Iowa, and they're having the same problem. They're not doing well. They're not doing well. They were doing great during the Trump administration. I think you would say that. Were you all? I hope you. This is always dangerous to do, but I hope you'd say you were doing well, because you're not doing now. I'm hearing it from farmers all over the place, and one of the big reasons is they haven't enforced the deal with China. And that deal was really a penalty deal to China because they took advantage of you for 25 years, and it was like a penalty. And, you know, Biden and Harris, they're never going to enforce anything. That group is a disaster. It's a disaster for our country in so many ways, but certainly the farmers are one of those ways. So I think either Rick, or are you starting off, Rick? Why don't you start?
Well, first of all, Mr. President, we really appreciate you being here as part of the Protecting America Initiative. We at Protecting America Initiative see China very clearly, as we know you do. China has quietly but strategically worked against us whenever we are distracted by wars or COVID. China goes in and absolutely tries to distract the American people. They work quietly. They go after our local and state politicians. They go after our manufacturing. And there is no question that they are looking to, at some point, leverage that investment and that activity. I've seen it very clearly at the UN, where the Chinese are very duplicitous. They have a permanent veto at the Security Council, but they also work with the G77 developing nations. They get money from UNICEF just to feed their people while actually acting like a superpower at the UN. They are duping so many people. We know from your administration, Mr. President, you were not duped by China. You saw them very clearly. But for the past 4 years, while America and America's Democratic-controlled White House have been distracted by wars, China is getting into our farmland. And we have to be able to see China very clearly. So we want to thank you for being here, and Lee is going to take us off into Q&A.
Well, thank you, Rick. Like Ambassador Grinnell said, President Trump understood the Chinese Communist Party threat and protected Americans from the CCP's attempts to infiltrate America. It is great to be here with the 45th and our next President of the United States, Donald Trump. China now owns 349,442 acres of agricultural land in the United States. That is up 82% from 3 years prior. America's food supply and the farmland that enables it is critical to our national security interest, especially due to China's aggressive ventures into the U.S. food supply. While in the White House, President Trump took on China in many ways that stood up for American farmers. In 2018, he signed a law requiring the federal government to review CCP purchases of land around critical infrastructure, airports, and military bases. That is why we need President Trump back in the White House to pick up right where he left off and go even further. Another one of President Trump's greatest accomplishments was the groundbreaking United States-Mexico-Canada trade agreement that replaced NAFTA, improved supply chain resiliency, and put America's farmers first. The USMCA provided new market access for U.S. agricultural products, a fair, non-discriminatory pricing plan, and improved grading standards for products. It has been reported that the USMCA trade deal led to $2 billion in annual increases for the U.S. in agricultural exports to Canada and Mexico, with an overall increase of $65 billion in gross domestic product for farmers and ranchers. Contrast that to Kamala Harris's lack of support for U.S. farmers and weak stances on China. At the time, then Senator Harris voted against President Trump's USMCA trade deal, voting against America's farmers. Harris also opposed President Trump's necessary tariffs against China, and most recently cast the tie-breaking vote for the Biden-Harris scheme that has sold our auto industry out to China. That's what brings us here today, to discuss what Pennsylvania farmers need from the leaders to combat the threat that they see every day from China. President Trump is here with us today to listen to those concerns, to offer his remarks on China's influence over our food supply. And President Trump, if it's okay with you, I'd like to introduce some of our panelists who are here.
I'd love that, yes.
Our first speaker here is Todd Reamer. Todd is a cattle farmer from Westmoreland County. Todd?
Hello, I am Todd Raymer. I own with my wife a beef cattle, cow-calf operation right here in South Huntington Township. My concern today is with foreign entities buying up American farmland while young Americans can't afford to buy a farm or even get started. My American dream was to buy a farm and raise a family there. And I was fortunate to find a farm and purchase it 30 years ago while working a full-time job in addition to doing the farm. Finally, in 2010, I was able to quit my full-time off-the-farm job and devote all my time to the farm, something that is rarely achievable now. I know there are young farmers out there who really want to aspire to own their own farm and ranch, but they can't afford to do so with the high costs of the farm, the ranch, and the equipment to get started. We all hear the word sustainability. To stay sustainable, we need to give Americans a chance to own farms and ranches.
That's right.
So they can continue to produce the safest food supply in the world for generations to come. And perhaps the solution could be maybe to offer a retiring farmer or a rancher an incentive tax break if he sold his farm to a farmer or rancher, American farmer or rancher. Also, if I may, I understand that China now owns major meat processing plants. They hold the contracts on production barns, and they even own feed milling plants all in the United States. I believe that it is Americans should control their own destiny when it comes to food production and the future of it. It's a life of hard work and heartbreak, but I know there's some young farmers out there that can carry the load if we can give them the opportunity. I had an uncle who was a lifelong dairy farmer, and when I was a kid back in the 70s, he had a bumper sticker on his GMC Jimmy that read, "No farmers, no future." That was 40 plus years ago. Since then, technology and crop yields have changed for the better, but the message on that bumper sticker has not changed at all. No future, or no farmers, no future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Matt Carr is here. He's a third-generation farmer of dairy, corn, soybeans, and alfalfa from Westmoreland County. Please welcome Matt Carr.
Thank you, Mr. President, for this opportunity to be here. Like I said, like I was introduced, I am a third-generation farmer. I would consider myself the young farmer that Todd is talking about. And I am a small dairy farmer from Westmoreland County. We currently milk 250 head of Holstein cows twice a day. It is more than a job. It is a lifestyle, as you know. But I would like to talk now about what agriculture means to this country. It currently is 30% of the jobs and 7.43 trillion in economic impact to this country. Like you had said, you are pushing through to China for dairy products to be sold there. That is a huge market, and I would see that is a large area that we could expand into and continue to push to try to achieve those goals that you talked about. With that, in 1992, there was 130,000 dairy farms in the United States. That number is now down to 26,000. Wow. We are currently losing the small dairy farms, especially in Pennsylvania. Our dairy farm numbers are down 8% from 2022.
What is the difference in production? So you have far fewer farms. Well, what would you say is the difference in production?
Production is
similar?
In Pennsylvania, I think it's down a little bit.
It's down from those days?
Yeah, the farms are getting bigger. The number of cows are still very...
But the overall total production you think is down from what it was when they had so many farms?
Oh, no. Total production across the U.S. would be up.
Is up.
Yeah. But we are losing the small family farm.
Sure.
Like myself.
I know that, yes.
Dairy margin is the margin that we have in order to make a living and a profit is extremely tight. Our input costs are up. So is there a way for America to, we talked about manufacturing, can we manufacture our own and not rely so much on foreign inputs for that in order to address what we need in order to survive into the future?
Thank you, Matt. Great job. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Nick Stafiri is a hay, beef, and pork farmer from Fayette County. At this time, I'd like to introduce Nick Stafiri.
Hello. Thank you, Mr. President, for having me, and thanks for the opportunity to be here today. My name is Nick Stafiri, as they said. I'm from Lower Tyrone Township, Fayette County. My family owns a small 120-acre farm where we specialize in freezer beef and hay. My story's a little bit different than everybody around the table. I didn't grow up with a farm. I married the farmer's daughter, so I kind of got that on the backside.
Very smart.
My mother-in-law was a full-time farmer in our operation. My father-in-law, myself, my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law, my wife, everybody else had a job off the farm. From 1954 to 2015, we milked 50 cows a day, twice a day, no hired help. It was all on them. My mother-in-law decided to stop milking in 2015 and transition to freezer beef and hay. I'm going to be a little bit different on my story here because my wife and I are both energy workers. So with the energy transition in Pennsylvania, our focus and our ability to have take our financial resources and put those back into the farm has been tremendous. Without that energy job, we wouldn't have been able to better our farm and better our situation. Without my industry and my work family, the opportunities afforded to me, especially like this today, wouldn't be possible. And as you sit here today, you're sitting on atop of the Marcellus and the Utica shales.
That's right.
The most prolific shale plays in the world are underneath your feet. My family depends on my salary and my wife's salary, and those salaries are dependent on pro-American, pro-energy policy. With this pro-energy policy would allow operators to develop abundant clean natural gas from below our feet. Appalachia produces roughly 30 billion cubic feet of gas per day. We could double the amount if we were just given the opportunity. Common sense policies that allow for infrastructure to be built here. Pipelines. We need more pipelines. Doubling our output would be the equivalent of putting 10 million barrels of energy on the market for the world stage.
Yeah.
Providing opportunities for families to remain farming, because guess what? We pay those royalties. We pay billions of royalties a year to landowners, just like everybody that's around here at this table.
Right.
And, you know, due to the ups and downs, I want to tell you a little bit of a personal story of mine. Due to the ups and downs of the commodity-based business, 4 years ago, I was faced with an ultimatum. And that ultimatum was, do I chase my corporate job or do I stay here and work on the family farm? My wife and I, we made the decision not to move to Texas. We made the decision that it was family first, that it was legacy over money. So our conscious decision to raise our two beautiful daughters as fourth generation on our farm is the best decision we made in our relatively young lives. There has been no greater honor than to represent my family, my industry, and the pivotal role we play together. The intersection between agriculture and industry, it's a tight-knit one. We need the farmers just like they want us to provide the energy. And responsible natural gas development should not be a partisan issue. It's a common sense issue. So I want to thank you again for allowing me to speak with you today. It's been an honor, and I really appreciate it.
So thank you very much, Nick, and it's great. So without your job, which is a good job, an energy job, but if you don't put Trump in, you're not going to have any energy jobs in here. They're not going to let you frack. They're not going to let you frack. You know that. She's never said frack in her life until just a short while ago when she realized her poll numbers were dying in Pennsylvania. They're not going to let you or anybody else frack. And so I just want you to be aware of that when you go and cast your vote. I'm not too worried about the people around this table, I must be honest, but you never know. But everybody's aware of it, and I think Pennsylvania's aware of it based on polling that we're getting. You can't let them do it because I didn't realize you were so dependent. Even a farmer would have to be dependent on the energy, but you take that energy out, you take that income out, it's a whole different story for Pennsylvania.
Completely.
And we're not going to let that happen. We got to win the election. Thank you very much. Great job. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mana Papafavare, the CEO of General Carbide.
Thank you so much. So again, my name is Mana Papafavare. I'm the president and CEO of General Carbide Corporation. We are a 56-year-old manufacturer of carbide and steel tooling components and assemblies for lots of industries that include oil and gas, ammunition tooling, and agriculture, to just name a few. We're a fully integrated supplier, so we start with our ungraded powders all the way to making our finished tools, which we've transformed over a period of years.
That's great.
This company was started by my father, Primo J. Papa Fava, when I was just 5 years old. He was the son of Italian immigrant parents. He enlisted in the Air Force to be a navigator, graduated from Carnegie Tech, now Carnegie Mellon University, with a degree in chemical engineering, and then went to work for a variety of businesses, ending up in a carbide company. He worked his way up, and eventually he started his own business. When he started the business, I was just 5 years old. So I'm very proud of our history. My mother and father taught us a lot. And I lost my father now 22 years ago, and my mother is now 5 years gone. But they taught me about hard work, integrity, and responsibility, as well as respect, charity, and compassion. I'm not as hardworking as any one of these farmers here, I can tell you that, but I do work hard. When my father passed away back in 2002, I was left with the responsibility of carrying on our business and taking care of 250 people that work for us in Westmoreland County. But by the time that COVID arrived, we had grown to 350 people with 3 different businesses in 4 states: Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Michigan, and Hawaii. And even though we were deemed an essential business or a sustainable business by 3 of the states, still General Carbide lost 60% of its business in a very short period of time. Unlike a lot of other companies that kind of rolled into the corner and waited it out, that is simply not our style. In fact, one of our core values is growth. And so we went to our sales team and we told them to look for opportunities, even in light of a very difficult time that we were having. And so one of our market segment managers, his name is Eric Butts, he is also a farmer. So he owns his own farm and he is working for us as a sales manager. He started to look for components in the farming industry made out of carbide, and he found that it was quite a large industry. But the overwhelming amount of these tools are sourced here by China. But he thought maybe we would have an opportunity by employing kind of American ingenuity and doing some things on our own. So we started to move into the industry. We've been working hard for 4 years on our different agricultural parts with some success, but not as much as we would have hoped due to the cost structure and this competitive landscape with China. As an example, we worked with a potential customer for prototypes for components that go on high-speed planting machines. We made the prototypes, we put them into the field and tested them, and they tested perfectly. But then the customer came back to us and said that even though our cost structure was in line with the domestic producer, we couldn't come close to the prices that they were getting from China, and so they would continue to purchase offshore.
That's why you need tariffs.
This is a loss of $500,000 for just that one part, and there are so many different kinds of parts that we have out there.
For sure.
We're currently working on components for several aspects of agricultural, the market, including ground prep, seeding, and harvesting. And we've had some success. We're using better grades of carbide. That also costs more. We have instituted robotics and other innovative processes. We have 24/7 customer service and communication with our customers. And we're now a one-stop shop, but we still cannot compete against Chinese government-subsidized businesses. Additionally, the purchasing agents are not incentivized to buy on a value proposition. They're incentivized to buy the cheapest parts out there, and those parts are coming from China. So I believe we really need to do 3 things. One, I think we need to incentivize our machine manufacturers and our farmers to purchase American machines with American-made components. Secondly, I think we need a stronger stance on China. You said it, that it should cost more to purchase components from China, not just more to purchase the materials, which is what we're up against now. And thirdly, we need to do a better job incentivizing those in purchasing to think about the value proposition, longer running machines in the field. That's really what we need to think about. So to end, I believe in the strength of this nation, Mr. President, but I also believe that you and only you are going to be able to bring back our independence
Amen.
and prosperity. And the last thing that I want to say is...
I agree. That's why you need tariffs. This is a perfect example. They undercut you, drive you out of business, and then they're going to put the price at double and triple. It's no different. It's been that way for hundreds of years. That's what they did with oil. Rockefeller would open up a station on every corner, and it'd have the you'd have a gas station, then he'd open up 3, and it cut the price so low, and everybody thought, oh, wow, what a great bargain. He'd put the one guy out of business, and then he'd raise the prices to triple and quadruple what it was. That's the old way, and it's no different with China or anybody else. That's why you need tariffs. We level it off, and now people are starting to understand it. Actually, I was watching Howard Lutnick and John Paulson, 2 of the great geniuses of Wall Street, actually 2 of the most successful people on Wall Street, and they're big on tariffs. They're saying Trump was right all along, and I did it. But that's exactly why. They put you right out of business, and then they'll sell the same product, but they'll be double the price of what you are and make a fortune. That's what they want to do,
Yes.
among other things. Can you tell the story of your daughter?
Yes, I'm sorry. The last thing I wanted to say is my hardest job is not running 3 businesses. It's actually being a mom to a daughter that is here with me today, Caroline Ray. She's 16 years old. Right there. Would you just raise your hand, honey, so that Mr. President can see? She's right there. She is not in school today, and she asked that she could be here and she could see you. I'm doing everything that I can to try to give her the truth every day. And I just wanted to say, and I told you that 8 years ago when you were running, and she was just 8 years old then, every night she would go to bed and I would kneel on the floor next to her bed and we would pray every single night for you. And every night she would speak out to God and she would say, "Dear God, please let Mr. Trump win, please." And the night of the election, of course, she had to go to bed early because she was in school. But at 2 o'clock in the morning, when we finally knew that you had won, I went into her bedroom. I scooped her up out of her sound sleep, and I was literally tears pouring down. And I said, "Baby, Mr. Trump won, baby. He won, he won." And she said, "Thank you, God. Thank you, God." And so she is here with us today, and I just wanted to let you know that we are still praying for you.
Thank you very much. Well, it's almost more important today. When you add the border, where we have millions of people coming in and from prisons and from mental institutions and terrorists and traffickers, human traffickers, drug traffickers, I believe it's more important today. We had a bad border then, and I fixed it, totally fixed it. In fact, it wasn't even a subject at the next election, but we totally fixed it. And but that border was nothing compared to what's happened now. This border is so bad and so dangerous for our country. I think it's more important today. I think it's going to be the most important election in the history of our country. Thank you very much, and thank you, beautiful daughter. Thank you very much. Very nice story. Thank you.
Beth Leeper is a small business owner, former dairy farmer, and current beef and crops farmer from Westmoreland County. I'd like to introduce Beth Leeper.
Mr. President, government and elected officials, and honored guests, thank you for coming to Western PA again today to hear our concerns and address solutions. My name is Beth Leeper, and to play opposite of Nick, I married the farmer's son, who is here today with my 2 sons, Levi and Owen. I am a Christian, a wife, a mother of 3, and a small business owner in that particular order. I, with my husband Brian, own and operate a direct-to-consumer on-the-farm market featuring beef that has been raised on the family farm in Donegal, PA. We procure lamb, chicken, and pork from other small farms in Pennsylvania like ours, and all the animals are harvested through local processors to our specifications. Since opening in 2017, our goal has been to provide our customers with consistently high-quality products while also supporting other small businesses and our community. In May of 2020, we expanded our store and offerings due to the needs of consumers during COVID and to offer other businesses another avenue to sell their goods. We now offer several agricultural and specialty items, all produced in or near the Laurel Highlands area. My husband is also a full-time owner-operator of transport in the dry bulk industry, and I also work part-time for a Christian school as the food service director. I share our occupations as an introduction to explain the challenges, due in large part to the inflation that we have seen, that we have witnessed and experienced both as a producer and a retailer, and also a consumer. As a truck driver, my husband normally fills his truck 2 to 3 times a week with diesel. In January of 21, just after Biden revoked the Keystone Pipeline, one of our fuel receipts totaled $592 for 200 gallons of fuel. That was $2.99 a gallon. In May of 22, a year after our energy independence moved overseas, one of our fuel receipts totaled $996 for 166 gallons of fuel. That was $5.99 a gallon. That $3 per gallon more means upwards of $800 to $1,200 a week in fuel expense, and less to meet our business and families' needs. This net zero approach has also increased farm costs exponentially, which I know comes as no surprise to anyone here today. Fertilizer is up 30 to 60% in 2024, not to mention the increase in seed cost, the fuel, the parts and supplies, and man hours for planting. Electric has doubled from around $400 a month in 21 to $800 a month this year, just to run some equipment and the lights that doesn't include heat. In 2023, feeder calf prices reached an all-time high, coupled with the increase in other commodities and prices to farmers not keeping up. This equals very small profit margins, and therefore, we have been purchasing a fraction of the feeder cattle that we have the capacity to feed. Our farm currently feeds out approximately 70 to 100 head of cattle, and that is reduced from 180 to 200 head just 2 to 4 years ago. But we have the capacity to feed upwards of 400 to 500. Actually, we are currently feeding only enough to satisfy our direct-to-consumer base, as it remains somewhat constant. The seasonal tourism of camping and skiing in the Laurel Highlands contributes to our sales, and we are located in the heart of the Laurel Highlands. I handle all of the customer relations for our on-the-farm market, and our customers often share their concerns with me. These are some of the things I hear most often. I really don't eat a lot of beef anymore. It costs too much. I can't afford to purchase a whole animal this year. What smaller packages do you offer? We are visiting from out of town. We don't have any places like this where we are from. And recently, the thing I've heard the most is I used to purchase bulk beef from a farmer nearby, a friend, a relative, but they don't have cattle anymore. Just last week, a local dairy in operation for over 65 years announced the closure of their bottling operations due to rising costs of supplies and down demand. Other farms in the area have declared bankruptcy or sold off property and downsized. I can't even get started on the detrimental effects that the weather has had on the vegetation in our region this year. From hailstorms to droughts, our corn and soybeans were among the victims. Nevertheless, farmers are no strangers to the risk and the gamble that they take every single day in order to do what they know and love, and that is to farm their land. And as always, this too shall pass, hopefully soon. Jeremiah 29:11 tells us, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." I'm not an economist, and to be honest, foreign policy is not in my wheelhouse. But this roundtable event is to address on how to protect our farms and food from China. It seems like basic, conservative common sense to me. Do what it takes to keep our farms producing, our markets selling, and our customers buying. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Dave McCormick, known national security expert, a fellow former veteran of the 82nd Airborne Division, and hopefully our next senator here from Pennsylvania, Dave McCormick.
Thank you. Thanks, Lee. And Mr. President, thank you for being here. And, a lot of bad things have happened over the last 3.5 years, but there's two particularly relevant to this audience. One is, as Lee said, China now has the upper hand. China is our adversary, smells weakness in all of its relationships with the United States because of the weak policies of Harris, Biden, and Bob Casey, who's been a 98% vote.
Right.
The second bad thing that's happening is our family farms, as you're hearing, our farms across Pennsylvania are struggling. Agriculture is the biggest industry in Pennsylvania. We have 52,000 farms. And under the Biden, Harris, Casey administration, it's been a disaster. Everywhere I go, I hear the skyrocketing prices, the price of inflation. I hear the burden of regulation. I hear the implications of the war on fossil fuels and what it's done to our farmers. And so when you're back in the White House and we have a majority in the Senate to support your agenda, and I've heard you talk about this, I think the people in this room can have a lot of confidence in fair reciprocal trade. Under your leadership, we had that. We've lost that. We'll get that again. Under your leadership, we can make sure we reduce our dependence on China for semiconductors, for pharmaceuticals. We got to have food security. and the people in this room are the providers of food security, not just for Pennsylvania, but for America. You know, we got to stop this buying of farmland. It's going up dramatically. It hasn't hit Pennsylvania much yet, but nationally it's growing dramatically. It'll come to Pennsylvania too. I know you're going to stop that. And then finally, I'm so glad you said it, energy. I mean, the reason many of these family farms are still operating is because of the energy revolution, the royalties that come from the wells on their properties, the incomes coming from energy workers. So this is a very simple choice for the people in this room and the farmers across Pennsylvania. It's a choice between strength and weakness. It's a choice between common sense policies that get our economy back on track, create a balance in our relationship with China, get the upper hand again, and unlock our energy, versus a radical liberal agenda under Harris and Casey, which will take our country further in the wrong direction. I think I can say with a lot of confidence, Mr. President, the Pennsylvania farmers, the agriculture community here has your back. Thank you.
I think they do. Thank you. And you're right, David. Bob Casey, and I've been there for a long time, actually, 4 years, but a long time. He has done nothing for the farmer. He has not been there. He's 100% with the Biden vote. I guess just about 100% of the time. Bob Casey is not the right one. This gentleman right here, he's tough, he's smart, and he loves the farmer, and we're going to turn it around. But Bob Casey cannot help us. He has never done it. Not good for the farmer. So I think you probably learned that the hard way. Thank you very much, Ed.
Thank you, sir.
Darrell Becker is the Fayette County Farm Bureau president. This time I'd like to introduce Darrell Becker.
Thank you. As Mr. Zeldin said, my name is Darrell Becker. I'm a 30-year Fayette County farmer who operates a beef, sheep, and hog farm with my wife, 2 adult children, and my son-in-law. And we have an intergenerational family. I have 3 of my grandkids live with me. It's wonderful. I also serve as president of the Fayette County Farm Bureau for the last 6 years, and I'm also the chairman of the Land Preservation Board for the last 6 years. And I was going to talk about land preservation, but I got beat up by my local members who tell me that I need to talk about soybeans. So I will tell you that we all know that China has no desire to buy products from us. We know that from what happened in your last administration, where they didn't even want to deal with fair trade. They're working on being less dependent on U.S. goods, and likewise, we need to be less dependent on them. This is incredible. Last week, news came out from California's All Resources Board, CARB, a governing body in charge of the state's air quality rules, who wants to mandate a limit on the amount of biodiesel fuel produced from soybean and canola oil. Under the proposal, beginning in 2028, they would only be eligible for low carbon fuel standards who use canola and things, will only be able to get 20% of the credits of their annual production. Those replacing American grain production used for oil would be assigned a higher carbon intensity score, thus reducing the interest in U.S. bean products. Meanwhile, the USDA has just reported that renewable diesel fuel imports surged 30% higher last year in the first 5 months of this year so that they could take advantage of these federal and state tax credits. In addition, imports of used cooking oil from China are flowing into the U.S. like never before to capture these biofuel tax credits. Farm Bureau and other biofuel advocates are pressing regulators to close the loophole so that only domestic producers are eligible for these tax credits. Because of this change, estimates project that American farmers in California alone would lose 200,000 acres of production. This is diametrically opposed to what American agriculture is all about. We know China's not our friend. 20 figures, that's why I got to read. I can't remember all these things. 2024 corn receipts are down 20%. Soybean receipts are down 14%. Wheat receipts are down 12%. Government payments to make up the shortfall are not due until October 2025. Expenses for 2025 may expect to decline 1%, but last year in 2009, China bought 49% of our exported soybeans. Now it's 31%. 70% of our bean crop goes to animal feed. Bean exports in 2023 were $34.4 billion. In 2024, they're estimated to be $27 billion. China owns 384,000 acres of our farmland. That's up 30% in the last 5 years. And guess what? The American government can't buy farmland in China. They don't allow us.
That's right.
Can you imagine that? At present, the U.S. has a huge supply of soybeans sitting at a multi-year low price, sometimes being sold below production cost. Farmers are using reserve funds to buy and produce soybeans now. There's no cash flow available to them due to the low price. You know this is unsustainable. So soybean farmers definitely need our help. Sustainable aviation fuel also uses soy, canola, and other seed crops from American farmer, and this is also under attack. We are putting ourselves at extreme risk in the supply chain, knowing that a huge amount of the herbicide 2,4-D and many repair parts for agricultural use are imported from China. How much risk can we absorb and rely on a country that is trying to replace us? We need to build domestic demand. Our government needs to invest in American agriculture. American farmers want a free market that can sustain the industry. They don't want handouts, they don't want loans. They want to be able to produce their farms. They're all hard. This is the backbone of America. The current administration has shown that they are not friendly to American agriculture. Every producer that I spoke to for this presentation resonated the same message. We cannot survive another 4 years. Mr. President, my 3 grandkids who live with me, if you could see Henry, who's 3, and Holland, who's 2, get into the UTV and drive down to what they call the big barn when we feed our steers, or they go pick chicken eggs, or they help us move cattle. The spark in their eye, the smile on their face, that's the future of America, and I want to make sure it stays here, and I know you do too. So I guess they all said that we wouldn't survive 4 years. I'm sure that when you get elected, that my line would be, help us make American agriculture great again.
Well,
thank you, Mr. President.
We'll take care of it. We'll take care of it. It's not very difficult to do. We're just being ripped off by other countries, and not only China, by the way, but we're being ripped off at levels that nobody's ever seen before. And this administration has allowed it to happen because you were making probably the best you've ever done 4 years ago, 5 years ago. You were doing better. All farmers were. They were doing better than they ever did. And now they're doing very better. I mean, I hear more complaints from farmers than almost anybody, and that's the backbone of this country. So they'll be very happy for a long time to come, okay?
Can I add one more thing and say to you that we've seen the decline of the mom and pop stores. And what you're hearing is that we're seeing the decline of the American family farm. That's America. So, I mean, anybody that's not paying attention to what's going on needs to wake up and get out and vote. And we know who they got to vote for. You, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. I love your hat, too, by the way. I noticed it right away. Thank you very much. We'll take care of them. Your grandchildren will be farmers. And they'll be maybe doing better than you do, okay? Thank you very much.
Before we introduce our final speaker, Kevin Sweeney, just want to say thank you to my former colleague, Chairman G.T. Thompson, the chair of the House Committee on Agriculture. We have Kim Ward, the Senate President here in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and Dan Mall, who is the GOP chair of the Pennsylvania House Ag and Rural Affairs. At this time, we're going to introduce our final speaker, Kevin Sweeney, who's a cattle farmer from Washington County. Kevin?
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank you for your personal sacrifice for us and your family. Thank you. I'm 71 years old. I'm a new farmer. I've owned my property since 1988. I'm a retired physical therapist, and I have 4 kids and 4 grandkids, and my goal is to develop this farm and make it a legacy farm like some of the people around the table are now talking. I raise beef and sell hay. That's all I can do. My soil is type 7 soil. The USDA has a soil map of the entire country. That soil is only good for raising grass and beef, and maybe grow some trees for timber. But I'm trying to expand it each year. I have a customer base that's getting bigger each year, and I've been full-time retired since 2019, and that's what I do. The issue that I want to talk about today in regard to China is solar panels. I'm being approached, and other farmers are being approached. The current offer is $3,000 a month per acre per year for the next 30 years. That's a lot of money. Who's subsidizing that? Is our government behind these people that are offering us this money? Where's that coming from?
Well, they are.
I mean, that's a lot of money.
That's right. They are, and they're allowing China to come in and just dominate the industry. That's right. They're sending panels over. Many of them are very defective, very bad panels, but they're sending them over, and they are really putting a lot of people out of work. But that's amazing.
It's an issue.
That's a form of subsidy.
Most of the small farms that are around me, I'm very close to Enlow Fork Bailey Mine Complex. It's one of there's top 10 underground coal mines in the country, and they're in that group. They mine a lot of coal. All that coal goes down the railroad, into the rivers, and goes to China. Okay, and it's unfortunate. These companies I'm surrounded by have bought up a lot of the small farms that I was fortunate enough to buy in 1988. They were beef farms. They were the same type of farmers as mine, but they own all these. They own all this property. Okay, my concern is, what if one of these foreign entities come in, and even though they don't own the land, they buy that company and then directly have control of the lease or that land and are able to use it for whatever reason. My other concern is the federal government. What if, for public use, they come in and say that they want to take my farm and put solar panels on it? What guarantee do any of us have that the government, Big Brother, won't come in and do that to us? We need to know about that. That concerns me. In the news right now is the sale of U.S. Steel to Japan. Okay, and I just happened to be researching it. I didn't realize that U.S. Steel has a land division, huge land division. They have vast holdings in this country. So when when Japan buys U.S. Steel, they're buying a lot of land with it. Will they have the ability to put solar panels on it or use it for another purpose? We don't know. It concerns me. U.S. Steel also owns a lot of coal mines and iron ore mines, which I didn't realize. They have all these iron ore mines out west, and a foreign entity is now going to own all those. And I've said this for a long time. I'm from